stuff, let's get to our guest. I was just looking at my copy of his first book, the book that rocketed him to stardom, and it's 1992. And, you know, I went out and got it hardcover right when it was new because I knew that I needed that. Certainly from the cave to the condo, gender communication has been a tenuous art. Certainly not a defined science, even between us. Mm-hmm. A generation ago, John Gray's Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, my dog-eared, yellowed copy is right here, helped couples communicate and deepen their intimacy as well as rejuvenate their love lives, if you know what I mean. Men and women, it revealed, communicate so differently, we might as well be from different planets. And in teaching couples to communicate, even speak each other's language, John Gray became the best-known relationship expert in the world. Now we're a generation and several bestsellers later, and John has now provided a 21st century update on the change in gender roles. Because I don't know about you, but I think it's way more confusing now than it was back then.
Yeah.
So if your gender communication lines and even gender identification lines have become sort of short circuits, it's time to ask the expert on our sexual gender gray matter. I'm delighted, honored, and really pleased to welcome back to our microphones John Gray, PhD. Hello, sir.
Well, hello and good morning. It's a pleasure to be on the show with you.
Thank you for being had, as we like to say. Hey, look around outside today, John. Where do you find yourself?
I'm in the Bay Area near San Francisco.
A beautiful, beautiful part of the world. All right. So, as I said, I have been a fan from the start, right? The original book, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, a practical guide to improving communication and getting what you want in relationships. This is the best-selling relationship book of all times. Is that true?
It is true, and thank you for getting that early copy. People like you that helped me and helped a lot of other people find out about that book.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed. It's I think it's something in 100 countries and 45 languages. Now, where did the sort of germ of this start? There you were, a young man, a young PhD. What was it that fascinated you about this topic?
I guess I'm a rebel at the time, and it still is true to some extent. People were just telling everybody that men and women were the same, and to me it was so obvious that we're not. And I think I had a perspective that most academics didn't have, which is I had been a monk for 9 years, a celibate monk.
Wow.
And I was the personal assistant to Maharishi of Transcendental Meditation.
Oh, my gosh.
He was like a dad to me, and I was his star in a sense. You know, I was a master meditator. They did my brain waves and all that, and they did big interviews in all the magazines about what happens in meditation, and I was the person they selected for that. So I was really good at that, and I was very good at being happy. You know, part of meditation is learning how to go inside and to be introspective and to go inside and find your source of happiness and be totally, unconditionally, completely responsible for what happens in your life. So no blame. Mm-hmm. And there wasn't a lot to blame. And then I got in relationships with women, and for me the journey was finding in a sense my purpose of life was fulfilled at that time. But my younger brother was bipolar, and meditation did not fix that. Mm-hmm. And so I said, okay, I got to go study psychology to help my brother. And that was my journey. And then while studying psychology, I started counseling and found I had a knack for it. But the key to it was personal responsibility, and I'm sure that's a big part of what you teach. And as a coach, is helping people take responsibility for what happens in their life. And when you can find happiness within yourself, and you're in a relationship with a partner, when people are not happy in the relationship, they tend to want to control their partner to get what they want.
Yes.
Rather than control themselves to find that place where you can be fulfilled, and then learn how to give more to get more. You know, there's an old philosophy, which is if you want to receive, you got to give. And yet it kind of goes haywire because women intuitively know this, but they give and they give and they don't get back, and they wonder why not, and then they're with the wrong partner and so forth. So I help women understand how to give men what men need, so then men feel like, oh, I'm getting what I need, then men do give more, and vice versa. And also a major part of that was learning to then correctly interpret our partners, because if you really see that your partner's coming from a place of love, they're not waking up in the morning thinking, how can I ruin my partner's day? They're doing their best. And we always think, but I told you, and you're not listening. Well, people are doing their best, and when you can see that, you can then respond in a way that recognizes that, and then you can bring more of that out. And so that was kind of my foundation. I had a different perspective, and I saw that a big part of how men and women were challenged in their relationships is not having this insight into some very basic differences that really exist between men and women. And as you said in that wonderful introduction, things have really changed today. They're more complicated than ever before. So I've come out with another book that I think is as universal and important as Men Are From Mars was.
Well, we can talk about that immediately. The latest book, if my timeline is correct, is Beyond Mars and Venus: Relationship Skills for Today's Complex World.
That's correct. Just came out last week, so it's just out there, and still people can get it at the 20% off when you have the bookstores and so forth.
Awesome. We'll hold it up. We'll even hold it up. Here's the old one. Here's the new one. Okay. I just have to ask. So, a lot of people are gonna focus on you, right? Where it's like, well, have you been married and have you been a parent and all that stuff? So, will you give us your sort of street cred around marriage and family and relationships for yourself?
Yeah, so I've been married with my wife 31 years, happily married, and gone through lots of ups and downs, but I'd say the last 10 years has been super smooth.
Nice.
And once and this book is filled with those epiphanies of once I understood men and women are different, that made it so much better, but then how to make it really smooth and easy when those challenges come up, and they come up for everybody. So that's I'm a parent. I've got 3 daughters and 4 grandchildren.
Oh, I'm so sorry. That interruption was not supposed to happen, but it did, and that means that we're going to take a short break and talk about you know what? This is a perfect time to go get the book. It's Beyond Mars and Venus: Relationship Skills for Today's Complex World. When we come back, we'll continue with our amazing, incredibly impressive, and valuable guest, John Gray. You're listening to The Coaching Show. Stay with us.
Hi, Scale listener. This is David Finkel, co-host with Jeff Hoffman of Scale Your Business Radio. I wanted to let you know that our newest book, Scale, was just released and encourage you to get your copy. The book will give you 7 proven principles to grow your business and get your life back. It's for every entrepreneur who ever wondered if they really own their business or if their business owns them. It'll help you to work less by getting your business to produce more. Get your copy online or at your local bookseller. For more information, go to scaleyourbusinesstoolkit.com.
On the internet, your business's reputation can be unjustly destroyed in an instant. Don't wait for that to happen. Building and marketing your 5-star reputation can increase your business by as much as 19%. Take control of your reputation and have the 5-star reputation you deserve with Reputation Marketing Solutions by DSI Development. Become the go-to company by visiting 5starrepmarketing.com. The number 5starrepmarketing.com.
Do you want to be a professional coach? Are you in business trying to make a real difference with people you manage or work with? Have you started a coaching practice that isn't quite getting off the ground? Get the skills you need to be a successful coach today with the Coaches Training Program from Accomplishment Coaching. The Coaches Training Program will show you how to help others focus and be more fulfilled. Whether you want to improve your company's bottom line or create a thriving coaching practice, Accomplishment Coaching can give you the distinctions and practices you need to coach others effectively today. Accomplishment Coaching has spent 6 years developing a cutting-edge coaches training program that will have you ready to coach people professionally in just 12 months, and you don't have to take time off work to do it. To find out more about the Coaches Training Program, just call 1-888-548-6813. That's 1-888-548-6813.
Has your business been appified? Are you tired of doing marketing that doesn't deliver results? Mobile apps build loyalty and quality retention. Your app from UPG Mobile puts your business on their mind and at their fingertips. UPG Mobile will give you a custom app highlighting how you are unique, targeting your message, and improving your open rates. Appify your business and amplify your presence with your customers at upgmobilemarketinggroup.com.
In the military, things can change in an instant. At Navy Mutual Aid Association, we understand because it's our life too. That's why our dedication to serving the life insurance needs of our military veterans and their families is unrivaled. Navy Mutual offers superior life insurance protection without military service restrictions and limitations. A single focus on providing the peace of mind military families are looking for. That's what we do. Navy Mutual, insuring those who serve. Call 800-628-6011 or go to NavyMutual.org.
Talk to me. WSRadio.com.
Accomplishment Coaching is proud to present the following fine programming. Accomplishment Coaching, where coaches lead and leaders coach. AccomplishmentCoaching.com.
Welcome back to the Coaching Show with your host, Master Certified Coach Christopher McCullough.
Continue our conversation now with John Gray, the best known relationship expert in the world, just before Valentine's Day here in the United States of America. I want to let you know that you can get his latest book, which is just out. It's just literally hot off the presses. You can touch it, and it's warm still. Beyond Mars and Venus, Relationship Skills for Today's Complex World. But if you don't have it on your shelf, if you haven't committed it to memory, you also want the seminal book, the original, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. And there have been a whole bunch in between, including Mars and Venus in the Bedroom, Mars and Venus on a Date, Children Are From Heaven, What You Feel, You Can Heal, and so many more. Go immediately to John Gray's website and check that out. Check out all of his fine work. And I believe, John, that we've now resolved our little problems. The fine staff here at WS Radio has guaranteed me that we'll have no further interruptions until the end of our time together. We should let you know, dear listener, that if you want to follow John and find out more, go to Twitter. He's on the Twitter at MarsVenus. The website is marsvenus.com. And, of course, Facebook also has Mars Venus John Gray. Just before the break, we were talking about relationships and the differences between men and women. I know that I brought in a woman, especially so we wouldn't just be talking from one perspective here. What questions have you got, Clarice?
Oh, for me, I do a lot of spiritual work, so I really love the meditation and the monk. I just really grasp onto that. And the work that I've been doing is really just examining what it is to be, and in your unhealthy feminine energy and like unhealthy masculine energy. And the question for me is that I was very curious about, whether or not the argument still holds about men being the logical and women the emotional, and how you really approach that.
Oh, I love the question, and I love your work you're doing, because in your introduction, how so many women are stressed and unable to sort of come back to their self. They're so busy fixing things, doing things for others, worrying about others, and it seems like there's just no time for themselves. And that what I would define as what you've just now said, the unhealthy feminine.
Yes.
And then there's the unhealthy masculine, and we'll get to that. So what's unhealthy about feminine is when feminine becomes overly masculine. That's the challenge. And it can be a beautiful thing when women express their masculine side. That's, I witnessed that was part of that in the 60s, when there was just this huge surge of excitement, energy, and passion, where we sort of announced that we could all be free to be ourselves. It was kind of like no longer having to repress. Women no longer had to repress their masculine energies, but they could express them. And likewise, I was over there as a young hippie, expressing my female side, growing my hair out and wearing very cool-looking bell-bottom pants and jewelry. And
I still have those, yeah.
And beads and pink shirts and all that. See, what that was the freedom of being able to express all that we are. Because as spiritual beings, we are both masculine and feminine. But embodied in this body, we have a physical body that's dependent upon different hormones and different structures. As a woman's body can make babies, and a man's body makes babies in another way by helping her make the baby. Our hormone systems are different. And the biological hormone system in men is primarily driven by testosterone. and it's a hormone. And hormones directly affect what we want, our priorities, our moods, our responses, our defense reactions, and how we behave. So hormones are right there, and we can't discount them in any way. We know now that just simply, somebody can be feeling something and you give them a hormone, they'll feel something completely different. Mm-hmm. Having said that, I'm not a big fan of taking hormones, by the way. I'm a big fan of understanding what thought processes, what attitudes, what behaviors, what actions you can do, what interactions you can do that would stimulate testosterone, or what actions, etc., that you would do to stimulate estrogen. So just for those naysayers out there, the big difference between men and women that's indisputable, while they still try to, say that our brains are the same and so forth, which is basically not true, but, it's science, and there's always going to be people saying, but, global warming doesn't exist, and those kinds of things. So, that's a big debate. But nobody says that our hormones are the same, and nobody believes that hormones don't affect literally every aspect of our life. So now let's look at those hormonal differences between men and women. As a general theme, men need to make 10 to 30 times more testosterone to experience well-being and love. Mm-hmm. So if you don't have well-being, you cannot have your relationship. As I mentioned before, we need to find the happiness in our own life so we have something to share with somebody, so we're not like a vampire just sucking from them. We need to be giving. That's what the joy, when anybody's really happy, you know that the really happiness, the greater happiness comes from sharing and giving. Mm-hmm. And so anyway, but back to, I want to stay on this point, which is, so men need more testosterone. Men have more testosterone. I mean, 10 times more. Imagine you met somebody who was 10 times taller than you. It's hugely significant. Then the other side of it is women have between 10 and 20 times more estrogen than men, a happy, fulfilled woman, at parts of the month. And at other parts of the month, she has 20 times more progesterone. Her progesterone has to dominate. So it's fluctuating with women. And just as it fluctuates with women during her cycle, it also, her needs in a relationship fluctuate. And that's so significant to balance those two things. As though in the first part of her cycle, estrogen will double. Actually, it will go up to 10 times a man's estrogen levels in the first 5 days after her period. During the next 5 days, it will double. So it will become 20 times higher than a man's estrogen. And it's during those 5 days that a woman needs special that needs to be the Valentine's Day of the month, so to speak. That's when she needs her romantic date.
Get a calendar out. Hold on. I got to write this down.
That's right, yeah.
That sounds about right, I think.
So back to your question.
And then the few days before, lots of cheesy pasta. I noticed.
And then afterwards, then after those 5 days, that 5 day window, then there's about 12 days before a period, and that's when biologically she needs to have her progesterone higher than her estrogen. And whereas progesterone wasn't a main player on the way up towards ovulation, it's a major player on the way down. And what stimulates progesterone has less to do with men, has less to do with an intimate relationship. That's that part of women that needs to take care of themselves more.
Right.
And that's what you're talking about in the introduction, is women who don't find time for themselves. What's happening is they have estrogen dominance and low levels of estrogen at that. Because they're over on their testosterone side, making lots of testosterone. When you make testosterone in the, we'll call it the masculine side of life, that's what stimulates testosterone. Those would be things like, working for money, sacrificing, rushing around, having to solve problems for people that you don't care about. These kinds of behaviors stimulate testosterone. More personal behaviors, more caring, nurturing, loving behaviors stimulate estrogen. And life is a balance of all those things. And when you're in a balance, and you're in activity which is for you, not for others, but for you, progesterone gets produced. And research now shows that estrogen lowers women's stress levels during the first cycle, and progesterone lowers their stress during the second part of her cycle. So it's more complicated for women. and how's a man supposed to know? That's for sure. Most women don't know.
So I carry a calendar with you. Just here's where I am, and so here's what I need.
And it's also learning to communicate. But that leads us to the foundation to question, are men more logical or women more emotional?
Right.
And I think but anyway, I'll finish that one. But so what I did in my book is I explained that, I went through basically 12 very clear qualities of masculine energy that produce testosterone. Behaviors, attitudes, qualities that are associated with testosterone production. And behaviors, qualities, attitudes that are associated with estrogen, the female hormone. So that would be our male side, our female side. And then we come back to the answer to your question. Every person has a balance of masculine and feminine. Mm-hmm. And often we go out of balance. But on the masculine side, logic is a masculine quality. So if I'm too far on my estrogen side, if I'm too emotional, for example, and I'm a man, I'm going to become dysfunctional. When men's estrogen becomes too high, they become dysfunctional. So if I'm becoming too emotional, my salvation is to come back to my male side and do something logical, or do something that has to do with self-reliance, or something that has to do with independence. So these are different qualities of masculinity, and achieve detachment. Whereas for women, if they become too detached, too logical, they often can't sleep at night. They often they don't feel the inner happiness. They're unable to access their feelings of deep love, and so they want to come back to their feminine. So logic, women can be just as logical as men, but if women are only logical and they don't come back to their emotions, their vulnerability, they tend to be way, way more stressed than they need to be.
I really love that.
Yeah,
I really love that.
This is very instructional. I love it because all of your work, John Gray, is pretty consistent in terms of, hey, with awareness, we can make different choices, and we're still responsible for ourselves. That personal responsibility or self-responsibility, as the great Sir John Whitmore wrote about, like, we got to start with us first. But it also explains something for me, actually many things. One of the things my wife and I do is once a year, and it's coming right up, so I'm excited about it, we take separate vacations. She'll take the kids and go with family, and they'll like go to a ski resort or something and just have a great time surrounded by family and tons of screaming kids and all the sisters and, And I take that week knowing that my wife and kids are happy and surrounded by love and being supported and having adventures, and I go away. I go on a bucket list trip to some island somewhere where people don't know, going to the Seychelles this year, just saying. And I get away from it all for a week. And we come back, and at the end of it, we're all very happy. I've had my little detachment and get away from it all. She's had her surrounded by love and stories to tell and like that. So am I picking up what you're laying down, John Gray?
That's wonderful. That's a tremendous thing to do, what you just described. And it's a metaphor as well for another valuable insight, which is that when women are way on their male side, and that's a good thing for women to express their male side, but there's a momentum. Once you get over there, the momentum is it's hard to get back. And the same thing for men who become overly emotional. The momentum over on the female side, it's hard to come back. Eventually we want to come back, but and when we do, often that's extreme too. Like a woman way on her male side, if she does come back to her vulnerable side, it tends to be her emotional side. It may become like a volcano erupting. And and for men, they go over to their emotional side, and they'll become very romantic sometimes. But then they swing back to their male side, and they shut down and won't talk for years.
Right. Right. I told you I loved you in 1972. That should have been enough. So I like what you're pointing to, though, because I think that each of us is sort of looking at where we're either a little to this or not quite
I already
there.
know.
Which is yours? Tell me.
Oh, I definitely am far more on the masculine side because
Really?
I am a doer and I'm working and
producing results, making the money.
Yeah. And so that's the thing. Yeah, like I've been doing a lot of meditation and using essential oils and salts and grounding techniques. But yeah, it's so profound to actually just touch on, hey, doing things for you and working on that and how expansive that is and how important and how
Also,
that really just spreads everywhere.
Those essential oils and stuff, parties at your house for sure. John Gray,
let me point out that doing things for yourself is a progesterone producer for women primarily, and doing things where you depend on somebody else is an estrogen producer. That's called pair bonding. There's social bonding and self-bonding, which is what you just described, taking time for yourself, and then the example of going and spending time with the family. That's social bonding. These are like really important experiences in a woman's life. And then there's another one called pair bonding, and pair bonding produces the estrogen, and also the oxytocin that allows testosterone to go down. So a key thing is to make that transition back from the momentum of being on your male side. There's another brain chemical, oxytocin, which makes that transition. So it's hard to shift from testosterone to estrogen, where you're being totally independent, male side, shifting to, okay, what do I depend on somebody else for? Interdependence. How do I make that shift? It's going to a softer, more vulnerable side for sure, and it can even be scary for many women today. And ironically, the scare is that they'll look weak, or they'll be needy, or that doesn't feel strong. And it's not that strong independence that we all have to various degrees. It's a part of us that loves and is dependent and needs help. We all need help, and women today need a lot of help, men, in order to come back to their female. They used to need our help in order to be safe, in order to have financial support and property and so forth, so they could raise children. That was the old world. That world's gone now. It's still there, but we build upon it, and we build upon it the transition of when she's on her male side to come back to their female side, and that's something that women depend upon if they're in a healthy relationship, their spouse. And a man can help a woman go to her female side by generating a kind of polarity, where when he's on his male side and he creates safety for her to go to her female side, and that's called good communication skills. And that's a new skill. It's not just regular communication. It's a one-sided communication that says, this is the time for women to speak and the time for men to be silent. You see, silence is masculinity. You know, you were just saying, Christopher, that you're going off to do your own thing, and your wife's going to go off and be in a noisy thing with a bunch of her sisters. They're all talking and sharing and interacting. Well, that's a very estrogen-producing event.
Good.
So when women talk and share how they feel, it's actually the major estrogen producer. And that's why therapy has taken off, and coaching, where particularly when it comes to counseling, I don't know about coaching, but I know in counseling, it's 90% of the people who go are women, because they're feeling stressed in their life, and they're able to express themselves and talk about their feelings and talk about their problems, which to men just sounds like complaining. So the bottom line, men, is you complain that women complain too much, but actually complaining or sharing feelings, and we can learn the art of that, is the most important thing for women to learn. And for men to learn how to create a safe space for it, and how to do it without men complaining back, or without men feeling like they're not being appreciated and they're not successful in the relationship. Because men, to feel testosterone in the presence of his wife, he needs to feel very successful. And if you complain, you just knock down that success right away. And yet this is the challenge in relationships. She needs to express her complaints about life. Otherwise, she's shutting down this female side that can see everything that's good and everything that's not good. That's feminine. It looks at what's good and what's not good. The masculine side of us says, okay, what are we going to do about it? How are we going to fix it? How can we change it? But the feminine side of us, without judgment of what we're going to do or can it be fixed, it just simply states, this is not good, this is good. And that freedom, that's why men are drawn to women, is that when women can express what's good, they're so attractive to men. That quality where women can appreciate and be delighted and be happy. And then when women complain, they're so unattractive to men. But if you suppress the complaints, which women have learned to do, they put on makeup, they hide their feelings, they have to look a certain way, they suppress that part of them, they over time suppress their ability to appreciate what is good. And therefore, once again, they're not as happy and fulfilled, and men are not as drawn and attracted to them. So that's the dilemma that we have today, one of the dilemmas that I address in this new book. And there are practical solutions for it. But first, do you relate to that at all?
Oh, no, 100%. I mean, that's very full circle for me. So I just am even more excited to just be here and have this conversation with you, because it really just, it's the missing link, right? Because everyone, I feel like, there are people that are hesitant to kind of dip into the spiritual world and understand what they don't see. And this is more practical, like you can take on little actions every day, and that can just be where you start, and that works too.
Yeah, I'm going to take on, with all my heterosexual male clients, go home, be quiet, take out the trash. Create the safe environment, do the works of service, and don't talk.
Now, you have to listen. This is so paradoxical, because back 30 years ago, and it's still there, and women experience it today. When men are quiet, women get very frustrated, and they kind of go, what's he thinking? What's he going through? What's happening? Because generally speaking, when women become quiet, they're holding back and suppressing what they're upset about. Okay, so I remember the third year of my marriage, my wife was very quiet, and I thought, I guess this is what happens in marriage. I like it.
Oh, gosh.
Now that I wouldn't have liked it for long, but then I found out she was upset with me.
Right.
But the point is that when women are upset, one of the ways they deal with it is to express it, and if they don't feel safe, then they stuff it down. And most women today don't feel safe doing that.
Right.
It makes them feel weak and needy, and they're afraid they'll be rejected, and all these sort of beliefs that push it all down now. And ironically, that's what we have that's the male side of us that says, put it to the side, get to do something about it. And for men, that can be the best strategy ever. And for women to survive, it can be a strategy. To win the prize, make money, it can be a strategy, but not for their well-being. Women need to feel safe to express what they feel. But this is a learning process. So the first step in it is first to understand that when you're listening to someone, you're on your male side. Listening, seeking to understand, seeking to make sense, seeking to step into their experience, not taking things personally. This is male energy. This will increase your testosterone, listening. Most people think if you're listening, you're being a good girl. You're on your female side. No, if you're sharing, you're on your female side, particularly if you're sharing what you feel and think and wish and want from the inside without the intention to solve or fix a problem. So let me say that again. Complaining is sharing what you're feeling inside, your negative feelings inside about something, with the intent to change someone, to control someone, to fix a situation, to get your partner to change. But real sharing, this is the estrogen-producing stuff, is to share what's inside without the intent to change somebody. So when somebody comes to you for a coaching session, Christopher, particularly a woman, if she's sharing her feelings, she's not trying to change you, and therefore she'll get the most benefit from it.
Right.
If she's sharing those same feelings with her husband, he'll get defensive, and because he feels she's trying to change him. She's sharing those feelings to change him.
Right.
That's why coaching and therapy can be so helpful, is you get a chance to talk about what you feel without dropping into this terrible habit of complaining about somebody, trying to change them. So somebody says, well, if you can't complain, how can you change people? You love them. You give them more, and then you ask for more without complaining. It seems so obvious in this context, yet few people know how to do it. And then you ask for more and you don't get it. Well, what do you do then? You complain. No, you give more, and then you ask for what you want. But you can't always give more when you don't have more. That's why we all have to have personal responsibility and learn how to come back into balance. And again, if a woman was to talk to a friend or a coach or a therapist about what she's feeling, it would produce the same hormones that if she was sharing with her husband without trying to change him. But women don't know how to do that, generally speaking. It's very hard, because the part of you that wants to change somebody, fix somebody, that's the male side. And women are so far on their male side that when they do dip into their female side and experience discontent and dissatisfaction, they want to share it with their partner. And the irony is, the more stressed a woman is, the more all of her problems get put on him. Right. I mean, it's amazing. This is what Freud talked about, which is displacement. And it's very, very hard to overcome without clear knowledge of what's happening here. It's like an illusion.
And also very important from an ethical standpoint for all coaches listening, that we never take it personally when our clients, start to, whatever that is, they start to be angry with us, or they start to love us, or they start to depend on us, or anything like that, to recognize it's just part of the process and not to take it personally. That's what I'm hearing.
Well, that's that for coach as well, but I'm talking, you took it for coaching, and that's absolutely true. Multiplied by 10, and that's a marriage. A woman will have all kinds of problems throughout the day, but it will build up and build up. And if she is talking, when she finally does open up, it will always be about him. And her mind will just start focusing on the one person who she feels safe to express herself to. and it just displaces over to him. So you can have all these things. So for women, the challenge and a new skill is to create what I call Venus talks. You could just say, I want to vent, but 10 minutes with my partner, and you do it several times a week, and you try to focus on learning how to express your feelings of discontent and then your feelings of positive appreciation for the little things in your life that have nothing to do with him. And then at the end of like 8 minutes, then you appreciate him, and then he starts learning, okay, I can do this. I can see this amazing phenomena that when women can talk about what's bothering them, they end up feeling really good, and I get to be the hero.
And I can be quiet for 8 minutes, right?
And I can be quiet for 8 minutes, okay? And then you end with a nice hug and go into different rooms so he's not tempted to try to give you solutions to what you were just saying, because that's belittling to women. You know, a woman might say, oh my gosh, the computer wasn't working today, I couldn't get the printer working, it was so frustrating to me. And he says, well, you should have called so-and-so.
Mansplaining, right, yeah.
It just, he'll immediately come in with a solution to it. And so she kind of feels like, I can't vent, I can't share with him because he's just going to want to offer a solution. I can solve it myself.
Yeah. Drives me nuts.
I want to make sure we've talked a lot about heterosexual relationships, some about long-term relationships, and Beyond Mars and Venus talks about today's complex world, and it seems like more and more types of relationships are being created every day. Right? There's Tinder dates, and where we talk only for 15 minutes. There's polyamory, polygamous communities. Do your writings, as you've sort of developed, do they apply to these new and often, at least for me, very confusing relationships?
Oh, they apply a lot, and they apply to gay relationships as well. Gay people will say, I was just doing one seminar with a gay couple, and she was. One of the partners related very much to the female qualities, and the other one related to very much the female qualities and the male qualities. So it's kind of like, one of the things I say for women to boost man's testosterone, just on a regular basis, is whenever possible and true, say something like, gosh, that makes sense, with great wonder and excitement and admiration.
Oh, my gosh.
Another one is, oh, that's a good idea. Good idea. It's just that tone of voice. It's not in the conversation.
Good boy. Good boy.
Not good boy. Not good boy. But good idea.
She took it one step too far. Yeah.
Yeah. And another one is, oh my, you're right. You're right. These are, really loving things to say to a man, and women don't realize their power, and that's how they can communicate their love to a man. Men don't understand what they can say to a woman are things like, oh, tell me more, and really, what else? And show curiosity, show interest, and help me understand that better. Get her to talk more and show interest and caring. That really boosts her estrogen levels. So we can know these things, and most men, the last thing they're going to say when a woman's upset about something or talking about something he's not that interested in, he's going to say, well, what else? Or help me understand that better. But these are things that are sweet, and they're loving, and they're expressions of love. And because you're understanding what is it that this person needs most. Those are a few examples of what I go into the book as the key things for men and women. Well, here I'm doing this gay couple or working with them, and, one of the partners is more feminine, and she goes, I relate to all those female things. And the other one is saying, well, I relate to all those female things, but I also relate to all those male things. And so I want you to tell me I make sense, it's a good idea, and I was really helpful. And then I want you to tell me how beautiful I am, how much you love me.
Laundry list.
So everybody's got these hormones inside of them. And one of the triggers that we can know that we have to find our balance and come back to our self-reliance is when we're stressed. And it's universal. If you have a human body, you've got all these hormones. You've got your own unique balance of these hormones, and it is more confusing when it's not just sort of simple binary, but it does help create distinctions so that when your partner is over on one side and they're expressing themselves, you don't think they're crazy or what's wrong with them, but you have a greater compassion and empathy and maybe a wisdom of what you can do for them at that time, or when they ask for what they would like you to do. Like you say to them, how can I help you right now? And they say something, you kind of go, okay, that's not what I would want, but that's what they want, and maybe that has validity.
Yeah.
And so you explore that.
And I like that. And there's also this piece, too, for me when you're talking about stress, right? I do a lot of work with, like, projections and doing a lot of work with, like, trigger work, right? And so what do you think that men and women really need to like get from each other in that regard, right? Just to understand like what triggers you is a projection that you have maybe about yourself and taking the responsibility about that.
Well, projection is an advanced class, and that's really, really good when people can get that when they're upset with their partner, basically many times to a great extent they're projecting onto them what you're not looking at within yourself. Mm-hmm. So the foundation there is when to make it simple, so it's with projection or when it's with displacement or when it's just that you're unhappy. At any of those times, you will feel stressed. You will not feel loving. Generally with projection, you can't have positive projections, which is why people fall in love with the wrong people.
Right, right.
You go, oh my God, I've met the perfect person. But basically, when you're feeling out of sorts inside yourself, and even with positive projections, usually there's kind of an anxiousness that goes, oh, I hope this person will love me. So anytime you're in this anxious state, whether it be positive or negative, or a resistant state of frustration or anger, annoyance, irritability, all those states, all those unhappy feeling places, the first step is to not believe anything you're telling yourself, because you're telling yourself something that's making you unhappy. So don't believe it. Don't believe it, and so you don't act on it and you don't dwell on it. But what you do is you then look within yourself to what's going on, and there's different processes for that. You know, and with projection, for example, you're really looking at what am I seeing in that person that may be inside of me or may have something to do with me. And that's the whole point of going into self-reflection, which is exploring, and that's why coaching can be really good, because it's easier to explore what's inside of you when somebody is looking at you and asking you questions. That's the key to it. I mean, I'm an amazing person for self-exploration because of my, years of meditation and mastering meditation. I have that self-reflection, but even still, to have somebody asking me questions, it just goes to another part of me. Because whenever you're interacting with somebody, what is going to happen is the part of you that relates to them wakes up. Otherwise, that part of you is asleep. And that gives you greater awareness, self-awareness, because they're looking at you and they're responding to you. That gives you the ability to go inside further to these caverns which we can't see. And since we're looking at projection, that's like when for those that don't understand that, you're walking around and you see somebody you hate and you don't even know them. Suddenly you hate them. That's just, they pushed a trigger button inside, which awakens some part of you that maybe that person was being arrogant, and you don't want to look at the fact that in some way you're arrogant inside as well.
How dare you?
Looking at those things, I find the most powerful way to do it is for women, is to look at their emotions, and for men, to look inside at what your emotions are, because your emotions are ruling everything when it comes to hormones, okay, and moods and so forth, and so to go in there and look at that, but when we deal with emotions in therapy and coaching, emotions for men is very important, because usually when men are stressed, they're over on their female side. So you want to start with where they are. Okay, what's going on inside? What are you feeling? But then with men, go more towards the direction of, okay, what do you think about that? Be more analytical. What happened? 4 analytical questions to help strengthen masculine energy is what happened, what didn't happen that you think should have happened or could have happened. So what happened? What else happened? What else happened that's disturbing you? What didn't happen? And then, now what could be happening? What are your concerns? And then you go into what should have happened. So you're in basically the problem-solving mode, you're in the analytical mode, and you're in the detached mode. What that does for men is it brings them back to their male side. And from their male side, then they can access their emotional female side from a place of love rather than from a place of fight or flight. Because when men, the bottom line is when men are feeling fight or flight, this is an interesting distinction for everybody to know, is when men are feeling fight or flight, their testosterone levels will surge first to solve the problem.
Right.
Now, if you lose confidence, that's where your fight or flight kicks in. You're going to have adrenaline get produced, which says, okay, what do? I need extra energy for this. But as soon as you have fear, an enzyme called aromatase gets produced, and aromatase converts your testosterone into estrogen, and that's where you experience fear, anxiousness, anger, irritability. It's from the estrogen side. So it was a complete wrong conclusion, and it's now been changed in science, that when men are aggressive, it's because they have high testosterone. No, it's because they had high testosterone, which converted into high estrogen, and it's only estrogen that causes men to be aggressive and
so
violent and mean and cruel.
Yeah.
It's again, it's like we need as men to come back to our masculine side, and particularly at times of big distress, you want to come back to be cool, calm, and collected, which is why all of the traditions, when we talk about spirituality, these spiritual traditions that taught meditation, quieting the mind, primarily taught them for men.
Right.
Now, see, as women are more on their male side, it's helpful for them to quiet the mind, but even more helpful, just to keep in mind, to express how they feel.
It also harkens back to Clarice's earlier question about, logical and those sort of old stereotypes. Our time is flying by. We've got about 10 minutes left. John Gray, would you be okay if we started going into sort of a rapid-fire thing? I know there are a lot of topics that people would want to hear from you on. Are you okay if we go to sort of short-form questions here?
Yeah, that sounds fine.
Great. And we'll just do that and then give you a couple of minutes at the end here to give us a parting thought or a parting shot.
But let me say first, I really appreciate being able to go a little bit more in depth. Each chapter in this book goes in depth because we need a new framework to shift this momentum that we're in right now in society.
True that.
And you really got to shift people around and make it make sense, the whole thing, because we're going in the wrong direction, with men opening up and women explain how they feel, men explain how they feel, women want to hear more from men. All of that's going in the wrong direction, but partly right. So if you're having problems in your relationship, you generally are doing the wrong things, and it's not your partner only who's doing the wrong things, and we have to be responsible for that. So that's why I wrote Beyond Mars, Venus. Okay.
Beautiful. And I don't know about you, Clarice, but I'm mapping a lot of this onto some of the turmoil in our country right now, too, and some of the people at the top. But let's not go there right now. That's another show, perhaps. All right, so rapid-fire question. First of all, with the rise of technology and the grinders and the Tinders and like that, and for that matter, polyamory, and, a lot of people out there doing a lot of things with very little connection. I know, John, you and I came up at the same at a time when you went to the bar or the ashram or wherever you were, and those were your choices, right? Everybody here is a potential partner, but now with technology, there's seemingly unending partners and playthings and whatnot available. So my question is monogamy doomed?
No. What happens, just like our country's not doomed, we'll go to one extreme and then go back to the other, and in the middle point, things will be really good.
I'm always on that.
Everybody's always going left, right. And same thing, what's happening is relationships are degenerating for one part of society tremendously, and people will experience the emptiness of it.
Yeah.
The immediate gratification leaves us.
Mm-hmm.
It changes the brain to where you're unable to appreciate and sustain long-term positive feelings, and which would be, that's a whole other book I wrote on dopamine.
Yes.
But anyway, there is. We're going to go in that direction. People are going to be completely disturbed by it because it's empty. It's an end road. It doesn't help you to grow and love. And there'll be others who are interested in what we talk about, which is how to grow and love. Once they experience the immediate gratification, doesn't leave you feeling good over a long period of time. But, if I'm eating a bag of Oreos, it tastes really, really good. And then afterwards you feel awful. So it's that's when you decide not to pick up another bag of Oreos.
What I'm curious about is do you feel that there's a difference in relationship at different stages in life? And if so, what are they?
Like Clarice is young, I'm old, right?
So this is very, very good question. Traditionally speaking, there was the honeymoon period, and then there was the contentment period. And that honeymoon could go from a few months to a few years, and that was it. Because the newness, whether you have any communication skills at all or any sense of polarity, knowing how to create polarity between masculine and feminine, without that insight, both outside the bedroom and inside the bedroom, I teach in one of my books, Polarity Sex, how to maintain the polarity so the attraction is there.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't know those skills, then the stages of marriage were what they used to be, which is excitement, passion, interest, and then nothing after that. But contentment, and when it worked, there was contentment, but there wasn't passion or whatever. And if a man was wealthy, he would have affairs, and if a man traveled a lot, a woman would have affairs while he was gone. So that was the way the world used to be. Now today, what's happening is you experience the newness is there, the honeymoon period is there, and it actually goes away more quickly unless people, because there's so much high stimulation today, so much immediate gratification. The more immediate it is, the more immediately you get what you want, the more quickly you'll lose interest. So what we're seeing is it doesn't last long. It's a shorter period of time. The honeymoon period is shorter. People then don't go into a state of contentment because they have the fantasy that it should all be easy and effortless and it should last for a lifetime. Because there's people like me saying, hey, guess what? It's lasted a lifetime. Because for me, sex is better now than it ever was in my life, and I'm 65 years old.
Wow.
You know, that's the passion has grown in the marriage. The clinginess of the first few years of marriage certainly isn't there. You have to maintain, as you talked about your vacations, you have to maintain your own life to come together,
right,
and to sustain the passion.
I'm so sorry, our rapid fire seems to have come to an end. That music tells us our time is up, and it was just extraordinary to be with you, John Gray. Thank you so much for joining us, especially now, right before Valentine's Day. The latest book, Beyond Mars and Venus, Relationship Skills for Today's Complex World, but there are lots more books. Go check them out immediately at marsvenus.com. Clarice, that's another edition of The Coaching Show. We'll talk to you next week.
Do you want to be a professional coach? Are you in business trying to make a real difference with people you manage or work with? Have you started a coaching practice that isn't quite getting off the ground? Get the skills you need to be a successful coach today with the Coaches Training Program from Accomplishment Coaching. The Coaches Training Program will show you how to help others focus and be more fulfilled. Whether you want to improve your company's bottom line or create a thriving coaching practice, Accomplishment Coaching can give you the distinctions and practices you need to coach others effectively today. Accomplishment Coaching has spent 6 years developing a cutting-edge coaches training program that will have you ready to coach people professionally in just 12 months, and you don't have to take time off work to do it. To find out more about the Coaches Training Program, just call 1-888-548-6813. That's 1-888-548-6813.
Do you love wine, but it doesn't love you back in the morning? Then it's time to try Alcotox, the ultimate hangover cure. Alcotox is a dietary supplement that reduces the harmful side effects of alcohol, and it benefits all alcohol consumers, not just those who occasionally overindulge. So now, for less than the cost of a drink, you can wake up hangover-free. To learn more, go to vinvillage.com and let Alcotox make hangovers a thing of the past.
I raised $8,000 to build schools for South African children. After realizing how many people go hungry in San Diego, I now volunteer at a food pantry.
I'm spending the next year doing volunteer projects across 3 countries and helping in ways they designate to be the most helpful.
The WorldLink program at the Joan B. Kroc Institute for Peace and Justice recognizes the potential of youth as agents of social change. Learn how you can help youth become a generation of leaders in action at peace.sandiego.edu.
Hi, Scale listener. This is David Finkel, co-host with Jeff Hoffman of Scale Your Business. I wanted to let you know that our newest book, Scale, was just released and to encourage you to get your copy. The book will give you 7 proven principles to grow your business and get your life back. Scale will help you work less by getting your business to produce more. Get your copy online or at your local bookseller. For more information, visit us online at scaleyourbusinesstoolkit.com.
Hi, this is Rob Barnett, CEO and founder of VinVillage.com and the Wine and Dine Show on Vin Village Radio. Do you have a wine, event, product, or service to promote? Then contact VinVillage.com to reach thousands of wine lovers across the country. VinVillage connects like-minded wine enthusiasts with unique and exclusive wines, events, products, and services. To learn more, contact us on VinVillage.com. VinVillage is where wine lovers connect.
You may have heard me brag about Progressive Medical Center and just how much they've helped me with my health. And Dr. Goley, one thing that you've helped so many people with is migraines.
Unfortunately, there are millions and millions of Americans who are suffering with migraines and headaches, and they're debilitating because it affects the quality of their life, and they cannot function properly. At Progressive, we get the root cause because we understand that migraines could be caused by nutritional deficiencies, hormonal imbalances, believe it or not, delayed food sensitivities. And once we determine what the real reason is, we put a plan of action together together with medication that we get them off slowly, and we put them on an all-natural approach, and the results are amazing.
Incredible. I mean, there's so many people that can say they don't live their lives with migraines anymore thanks to Progressive Medical Center.
And that's what's exciting and rewarding to us as physicians, because we help our patients take control of their health, and that's why they're living well.
Why don't you get a hold of Progressive Medical Center today? Don't live in pain. Don't have migraines anymore. Just go to their website, progressivemedicalcenter.com.
This is your life, live it well.
You take your smartphone almost everywhere you go. Now WSRadio.com can be there too. Search WS Radio in the Play Store for your Android devices or iTunes for Apple, and download the WS Radio application. WSRadio.com, on your phone and in your ear everywhere you go. Download the WS Radio application. Do it now. It's very easy. WSRadio.com.
Thank you for listening to WS Radio. Improve your business and your life with useful information from experts and thought leaders. WS Radio is radio with ROI.
Talk to me.
Information, news, and entertainment on demand.